Hello, this is Mrs. Brown, and today we're going to be looking at writing systems of inequalities from graphs. So, you may have a graph such as this, and how do you write the inequalities that go with it? So, the first thing that I would suggest is thinking about your y equals mx plus b format. Okay, the b, the constant, represents your y-intercept. And the m represents the slope. So even though this is an equation, when I start to write my inequality, I'm going to start with this. So you pick one line because we're only going to do one line at a time. So I'm going to start with the green one. And the first thing I have to do is identify the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is right here because, of course, this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis. And that is at -1. So my equation is going to start with a -1 at the end because that's the y-intercept. The next thing I need to do is find another point that I can use in order to find the slope. And so there's one right here. If they give you points on the graph, I suggest you use those because sometimes it's really close and it's hard to tell whether or not it's actually on the line or not. So if they've given you points, use the points they gave you. All right, so in order, I'm always going to move from left to right on the graph. So to start here, I'm going to go down 2 and over 3. So I'm going down 2 and over 3. So it's a negative slope because you read the graphs like you read a book across. And so since it's sloping down, we definitely know it's negative. And again, if you start this way and always move this way, then you go down 2, so it's negative and over 3. So my slope is -2/3 x. Okay, there's going to be a y here. Now, the difference is instead of having an equal sign, we're going to have an inequality sign. When you have a less than or greater than, it is a dashed line. When you have or equal to, that's a solid line. So I asked myself, do I have a solid or dashed? Well, it's a solid line, so I know it's going to be an or equal to. So the next thing is to decide, is it going to be less than or greater than? So the easiest thing to do is look where the y-intercept is. Now, is the shading above, so it's greater, or below, so it's less than? Well, the green shading here is above the line. So y's are greater this way, so therefore y is greater than or equal to -2/3 x minus 1. So again, if you use the y-intercept as a reference point, you can see that it's the y's above it are greater than, and that's where it's shaded, so it has to be greater than. All right, let's look at the other line. So now I'm going to do the same process, but I'm going to do it with this one. So I start with the y-intercept. It's at -1, 2, 3. So we're starting with a -3 at the end. Okay. And from there, I have to find another point. It looks like there's another point right here. Okay. And so to get there, I'm going across this way. I've got to go up 3 and over 1. So 3 over 1 is the same as 3. So my slope is 3. So it's 3x minus 3. I'm going to put my y here, and then again, I have to decide on what kind of inequality sign I'm going to have. It's a solid line, again, so it's got to be an or equal to. And again, I'm going to look at the y-intercept, and then I'm going to decide where the shading is. Is the shading above where the y-intercept is, or the y's greater? Or is it the shading below and the y's are less than? Well, in this case, you see that it's underneath where the y-intercept is, so therefore it's going to be less than. So y is less than or equal to 3x minus 3. Okay, let's look at another example. All right. So for this one, first thing you're going to see, this pink line, let's start with this one, is different. It's different because it is a horizontal line. And horizontal lines, okay, horizontal is this direction, it goes straight across, are going to be y equals a constant when we're talking about equations. So there is no x variable because it doesn't matter what x is. Y is always that number. If we have a vertical line, remember those go this way, it's going to be x equals a constant. when we're talking about equations. And so we'll be looking at a similar thing, but with an inequality sign instead of an equal sign. So I have a horizontal line, so let's start with that one. The horizontal line goes through -1. So y is always equal to -1 no matter what x is. And then I look, do I have a solid or dashed line? Well, it's solid, so it's got to be or equal to. And then I decide, okay, is it less than or greater than? Looking at the y-intercept, is it greater, is it above, or is it less than, is it below? And it's less than. So therefore, y is less than or equal to -1. Again, horizontal or vertical lines are special cases, okay? And if you think about it, the slope of a horizontal line is 0, so it makes sense that there's no x because 0 times x is 0, okay? Oops, looks like oh, no, there it is. I was going to say, I thought I erased that y equals mx plus b. So if I put a 0 in for the slope, there it is. All I have left is the y-intercept, and so that's why it is like that. All right, so the next line we're going to look, this is not horizontal or vertical, so I'm going to go back to the y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to start by identifying the y-intercept. So it looks like it's right here. So that's -1, -2, -3, -4. So I'm going to do a -4, okay? For my slope, it looks like the next point's up here. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 7 this way, and 1, 2, 3 this way. And so my slope is 7/3. So that's kind of a little bit unusual one. All right. And then now that I've gotten this far, I've got y equals, and then I've got a 7/3 x minus 4, because 7/3 is my slope. It went 7 up and 3 over, and my y-intercept was -4. Now I need to decide on the sign, solid or dashed. Well, this is a dashed line, so it's not or equal to. It's either got to be less than or greater than. So once again, I go to my y-intercept. The shaded green portion, is that above the line or below the line? Well, it's all shaded below, so therefore it is less than. So y is less than 7/3 x minus 4. Again, using the y-intercept as your reference point, you can tell whether it goes above or it goes below. Okay, let's look at one more example. All right. So in this case, the first thing you notice is probably that I've got a vertical line this time instead of a horizontal. So that special case is going to be x equals a constant, because it doesn't matter. X is always the same number. Okay. So when I take a look at that, it goes through at 1, 2. So x and a 2. And then I have to decide, again, greater than, less than or equal to, so on. So when I look, I have a dashed line. The red line is dashed, so therefore it's got to be less than or greater than. And since I don't have a y-intercept, I'm going to use the x-intercept to make that decision. Is it above, so beyond the x-intercept, so more than, or is it less than the x-intercept? So the smaller would go this way. Well, the shading is this way, and if you think about it, if this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, these numbers are greater than 2. If this is 2 and this is 4, 4 is greater than 2. So therefore, x is greater than 2. It's not or equal to because it's a dashed line, okay? If I look at the other one, is a normal line. It's not horizontal or vertical. So I'm going to go back to my y equals mx plus b. So the first thing I'm going to do is identify the y-intercept. My y-intercept is right here at 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to start with a +3. Okay. And then I've got to kind of find another point. It looks like right there. And so to go from here to here, I need to go down 2 and over 1. So -2/1 simplifies to -2. So my slope is -2x, or -2, and then times x plus 3. I'll have y on this side. And again, I'm going to decide whether it should be, what symbol I should be using. When I look at this blue line, it's solid, so it's got to be an or equal to, so it's either less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. Starting from the y-intercept as a reference point, look at the shading. Is the shading above, so it's greater, or below, so it's less? Well, the shading is above, so that means that it is greater than or equal to. So y is greater than or equal to negative 2x plus 3. Okay? So again, when you're going through this process, you go back to your slope-intercept form is the easiest way to do it. Look for the y-intercept, figure out the slope, and then you can look and see which sign that you need in that particular case. Okay? I hope this helps and have a fabulous day.